This is CNN Breaking News.
This is Piers Morgan Live. I want to welcome our viewers in the United States and around the world to CNN's team coverage of what I can only describe as an unfurling nightmare in Oklahoma. A massive tornado 2 miles wide rips across the Oklahoma City suburb of Moore. The devastation almost unimaginable. At least 51 people confirmed dead. That number expected to rise. We have no idea yet how many are injured or missing.
Like you took the house, you put it in a gigantic blender, you turned it on pulse for a couple minutes, and then you just dumped it out.
In a matter of moments, homes, schools, hospitals wiped away by tornadoes been rated at least EF4.
It was just unbearably loud, and you could see stuff flying everywhere, just about like on the movie Twister.
Students at one elementary school told to hold on to walls as the storm ripped their school apart. Teachers tried to protect students by lying on top of them.
Me and 4 other guys pulled a teacher out. She was on top of 3 kids. The kids were fine. She was hurt pretty bad.
Rescue still underway at this moment and becoming increasingly desperate. I'll talk to witnesses and survivors, and here with me on my studio is science educator Bill Nye. But I want to begin with CNN's George Howell in the devastated community of Moore, Oklahoma. George, this is getting worse and worse by the minute, isn't it? Tell me the latest news.
Well, Piers, at this point, we are losing daylight. You do see, though, that officials, they do have a light up over this scene where the search and rescue continues. I don't know if you can see that line there of investigators. They're going in there. We've seen more investigators going into this area as they continue to look for people in the rubble, looking for children, looking for teachers. And here's the other thing, Piers. In this neighborhood, people tried to go into the school, tried to help, also went into the homes trying to rescue people who were trapped in their homes or in their storm cellars. I want to bring in Devin Anderson and Micah Pearson. The two of you, you don't even live around here, but you came here to try to help. Yes. You live in Norman. Yeah?
Yes.
So why did you come out here?
Just, well, I got a call from my girlfriend, and she told me that her family was trapped out here. So we came this way, and then we heard news that her family was okay, and then we just decided to stay out here and help because we seen the disaster. And we went out here and tried to help, and we were walking across the yellow tape, and we got told that we can't go in there without a hard hat, and that they've got enough firefighters in there using the jaws of life right now, trying to get the kids out of the school. They were trapped in a hallway.
And officials were saying that, you know, a lot of people did want to go in and help, but they are turning people away because they have an operation that is currently happening.
Yeah.
Micah, I want to also ask you, I mean, what did you see when you were over there?
Oh, man, it's like ground zero, you know what I mean? There's just rubble everywhere. It's people's lives just everywhere. And, you know, we're just in there trying to find what we can, help people out. You know, there's a lot of tears going on right now. People have lost family members, pets, you know.
Any movement you hear, you just run to that spot and try and dig and see if you can get somebody out. Like, it's just, it's crazy.
Did you find people? I mean, what happened?
We found dogs, and we were digging, and we were at actually a deaf guy's house, and we didn't know if he was okay or not, so we were banging on stuff trying to hear if we could hear anything from him. And we got confirmation from the family that they were out and they were safe. So we didn't actually pull anybody from it, but I mean, I'm sure there's still people out there.
Guys, thank you for your hard work out there. Thanks for being part of this rescue. A lot of people did their best, you know, to go over and find people, find animals. This continues, Piers, and it will continue certainly for several days. It's a mess out here. There are homes destroyed for many people. They're just getting out to this neighborhood to see their home for the first time. It's going to take a long time for this area to recover.
George, for now, thank you very much indeed. And I want to bring in CNN's Nick Valencia, who's 2 blocks from the Plaza Towers Elementary School. Nick, clearly a lot of focus now on this school. Nobody seems to be too sure how many children may be still trapped inside there. What can you see? What can you hear?
Well, Piers, we're about 2 blocks away from the school. We're in the neighborhood, one of the strike zones of the EF4 tornado that just ripped through this neighborhood. You can see the devastation behind me, block after block. It just goes on. We've been hearing a lot of the stories of the residents coming back here to go through and sift through the remains. I want to bring in the Jones, their son-in-law, and their grandson. You came back to your house. It's gone.
There's nothing left. There's nothing left. A big pile of rubble. Amazingly, though, our dog who rode it out and was buried in the rubble is fine.
What were you able to get here? What did you save?
A wonderful lady came by and said, "Is this yours?" And this is a picture of our 2 daughters when they were babies. It's a very old picture, obviously. And they're wearing dresses that my mom made for them. And so it's a very special picture, and we'll get it restored.
Sometimes it's the little simple things that make the difference in something like this.
I'm telling you.
I understand your grandson, Wyatt, you rode out the storm too, buddy, huh? Was it scary? What was it like?
It was like a big tornado tear up the whole place.
You're a tough one for sticking it out.
Yep.
Piers, these are just very uplifting stories. Family members that are sticking together. This community is banding together, and that really is the uplifting note in this tragedy that struck Moore, Oklahoma. Piers?
Nick, for now, thank you. Obviously, a devastating scene down there. Joining me now on the phone is Scott Hines, a reporter for KFOR in Oklahoma. Scott, this seems to be a really horrific tornado, and the full scale of what has gone on here may not be known for a few hours. Tell me what you know.
You know what, Piers? It's complete utter destruction. It's been horrific. It's been deadly. It's been devastating. I've been in this market for about 10 years, and I've never seen anything like this before. And we see our fair share of tornadoes. And this is Tornado Alley, but this, whatever this was, we've never seen. And you're seeing the pictures for yourself. It resembles a war zone. Folks are shell-shocked. I'm shell-shocked. Cars thrown like toys. Homes, businesses leveled, and this was one of those tornadoes. If people were not underground, if they weren't seeking shelter underground or in a storm shelter, then the chances of surviving this tornado so grim, like slim to none. Right now, more than 50 confirmed dead, and that number is growing or expected to grow exponentially. We've been focusing on those several elementary schools and more, specifically the Plaza Towers Elementary, and that's where 75 students and faculty took shelter. That school was completely leveled. I mean, wiped to the foundation. We witnessed rescuers pulling children trapped beneath the debris. The third graders, mainly, we were hearing that the first, second, and third graders, possibly kindergartners as well, those students were not bused from the school. Minutes before the tornado hit, the older children at that elementary were bused to a nearby church that was out of the way of the direct path of this tornado. The other children, though, were not. Have confirmed that at least 7 of those children, they were found at the bottom of the school in a pool of water, standing water. All of them had drowned, and it's likely that there are 20 to 30, and I get a little choked up talking about this, but there are 20 to 30 more little victims, their children. So that search and rescue mission has now kind of transitioned over to recovery as dusk sets in, and I don't know. It's pretty chaotic. I had another coworker. She had just arrived on scene, and she witnessed first responders pull out of the rubble a 7-month-old baby, and with that 7-month-old, the baby's mother, both lifeless. They were trying to seek refuge in a giant freezer. But we're also hearing stories of heroism. There were teachers at that elementary school who were using their body as a human shield and literally covering the children with their bodies, and because of those teachers, those heroes, they are now those children are still alive, and we're still trying to confirm the status of those teachers. But yeah, it's devastating, utter destruction.
I can tell from your voice, Scott, this is clearly rocking the whole community very hard. Just want to make it clear to our viewers, CNN's not confirmed the fatalities that you're directly talking about there, but clearly we can see the pictures, and it's a very, very serious situation, and the death toll, as you said, has been rising very fast in the last few hours, and we can only hope and pray that the search effort, as it is, as we can see on screen now, is successful in finding at least some people still alive there. Tell me this, Scott. We're told that there may have been a 16-minute warning. Is that right? Which, if that's true, would be slightly above the normal average time.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, our meteorologist, the National Weather Center, I mean, we've been projecting this storm, putting the warning out there for days now, and like I said, this is Tornado Alley. This is something that we're we live with, especially during the month of May. Now, I will say that May 3rd, 1999, which went down as one of the deadliest tornadoes we've experienced here in Oklahoma, it compels in comparison to this tornado. This tornado, our chief meteorologist, he in his opinion, this tornado, of course, is not confirmed, but this tornado, in terms of deadliness, the damage that was sustained, 3 times more powerful and deadly than May 3rd, 1999, and that tornado hit late in the evening. So families were at home. They were glued to their television set. In this case, it hit early in the afternoon, and so children were at school, parents, some at home, others at work, and so there was just this utter chaos. On top of these schools trying to figure out the best mode of protection for the children. I know that an email was sent out by more public schools to families, to parents, notifying them that these students were taking cover within the confinement of the school. And again, at this hour, that mission no longer a search and rescue mission, but our sources and rescuers, first responders telling us that they fear there could be another 20 to 30 more children still beneath that rubble who have not been rescued.
And Scott, in terms of the scale of the devastation to property and so on outside of the immediate school areas, we're told it may stretch as far as 20 miles. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, we're hearing that the track of the tornado spanned about 20 miles, but that the level of destruction or the reach of destruction actually reached 30 square miles. And that's not just damage. That's not F4 or F5 damage. That's all degrees of damage, obviously, but that's an overall affected area by flying debris, and that's something that we've never experienced here. Like I just saw on Twitter and Facebook that there was debris that was being recovered in Tulsa, which sits about 90 miles away from Oklahoma City. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of that debris made its way on into Arkansas, which the track of the storm was headed directly east-northeast.
Incredible. Scott Hines, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Quite apocalyptic scenes and reporting there from Scott Hines. Updating tonight's breaking news in Oklahoma. At least 51 people are dead after a huge tornado 2 miles wide struck near Oklahoma City this afternoon. Search and rescue efforts continue tonight. Houses, schools and hospitals were all leveled. A state of emergency is in effect and the threat of more severe weather is far from over. And I want to bring in Ken Garcia of the American Red Cross. Ken Garcia, thank you for joining me. I've just had a really shocking report there from a local reporter talking about this being potentially 2-3 times the size of the terrible tornado in 1999 in the same area. What is your understanding of the scale of this?
Well, this is a very large, destructive tornado that moved through Moore, Oklahoma, and our hearts go out to the families that have been impacted by this storm. I mean, it is absolutely horrible what has happened. The Red Cross is beginning the process of getting into these neighborhoods. Right now, a lot of the roads are not even passable. I know that the tornado went over Interstate 35, which goes right through Moore, and some of the roads are still closed off. So we're waiting and trying to get into these areas. We do have a shelter that is opened at one of the local churches. It is St. Andrew's United Methodist Church that is open for the shelter, and we are currently in the process of identifying 5 more shelters for this area. There's going to be a lot of people needing a place to stay, somewhere warm, a nice warm meal, and something to drink, because it is still warm here, and we just want to make sure everyone is taken care of. And we're out in these neighborhoods, and again, our hearts just go out to everyone. We here in Oklahoma, a lot of our volunteers have friends and family who live in the city of Moore. I had a staff member in my office here while we were watching it, and between when we had to go into our own storm shelter here in our office, she was saying that her Bible club members live in that area, and she was able to hear from them, so she knows they're now okay. It is definitely very, very tough to see on TV, but we're resilient. Oklahoma's a resilient community, and we're definitely going to bounce back from this, and Red Cross is here to help.
Well, best of luck with all your efforts, Ken Garcia, and thank you for joining me. Chad Myers is at the CNN Extreme Weather Center for us. He knows the Oklahoma City area very well. Also joining us, CNN's Indra Petersons, who's tracking the tornado's path. Chad, let me start with you. You know this. How bad is this? It looks horrendous.
It's devastating to the people that live there and to all the communities around it as well, because now you've cut the city basically in two. There's half the city between Moore, Norman, and the points south, and then to the points north. I-35 slices right through that part of town, and people can't get from one place to another. And I believe, Indra, that that's why some people are missing, because they just can't use the cell phones. The best thing to do you can do right now is to text your friends or text your loved ones, because texts only need a nanosecond. A cell phone call needs an entire free line, so always text during emergencies like this. But this is bad. Almost 4,000 homes devastated by this, and you and I were looking at this damage, Indra. We're looking at pretty close to F5 damage.
I mean, yeah, we're talking about damage that we were seeing out towards Joplin, and then of course we compare that to Tuscaloosa. And you really talk about these homes being completely wiped off of their foundations there. That's where we start saying, you know, this could potentially be stronger than an EF4. And we're also looking for multiple level buildings, and whether we're seeing those completely leveled, of course, that also indicates there is the chance here that that could be as high as EF5.
Weather Service already saying at least EF4. That just give you an idea. 166 to 200 miles per hour. That's at least. That's all what they're saying. They haven't even gone out to look at it yet, because they don't need to go out and look at it. They need to let the rescue workers rescue people. They don't need to be in the way. There's your scale. EF5, total devastation, nothing left of the home. And I did see some slabs, concrete slabs, with not a house on it.
Yeah, amazing devastation. This is something everyone's been talking about. You know, they did have lead time into this storm. Well, how come everyone didn't get out? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. Chad was also talking about shelters. A lot of the terrain here, not really great for getting an escape. Also, you know, in tornado chasing, one of the things that I do notice all the time is the congestion. Very popular, especially with tornado outbreaks, for people to be out there. Now a lot of amateurs are out there, and something that we actually call spotter traffic. You cannot move on these major highways, and unfortunately, I did see that is something that actually played into this.
And something you don't understand, because it doesn't make any sense. There's no way to get a real basement in Oklahoma. It's just too expensive. It takes dynamite and backhoes. It's a rock right under the soil. And so people don't dig basements. So when we say go to the lowest level, that slab is the lowest level. It's dangerous. I wish we could do better, but you know, you can build an interior home, an interior part. You've seen these safe houses.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Of course, it needs to be that bottom level. We say this all the time, and it's not, a lot of people talk about a bathtub. It's not just a bathtub. It needs to be the most interior room on the lowest level. It's one whole picture, and that's what we need to get out there. And this is Oklahoma. You would think they had shelters, but not everyone does. And for this reason, you have to have a plan. Whether you have 13 minutes or 45 minutes of lead time, there has to be a plan for reasons just like this.
Piers, you saw the damage last night. That was Shawnee, and those were mobile homes. What we see today were not mobile homes. These were real house-built structures nailed to the foundation or to the slab, and they were devastated just like those mobile homes were yesterday. This is a big tornado.
And that's exactly what they're going to be evaluating, of course, is between that EF4 and whether or not there is a threat for EF5, is how strong these buildings are. It's not just whether or not the building is gone, it's, of course, how it's built.
Chad and Indra, for now, thank you both very much indeed. The destructive power of a tornado is hard to imagine if you've never experienced it. I want to bring in science educator Bill Nye now to try and make sense of what has happened here. Bill, we've spoken many times about natural disasters. This does seem to be particularly appalling.
Well, it's huge. The thing that strikes me about this one is the width of the storm. Everybody's talking about these scales. The enhanced Fujita scale, that's the EF. Is based on the destruction of buildings. It turns out if you understand the buildings well enough and you see which ones are destroyed, it gives you a lot of information about the strength of the storm. But this thing was not just going 30 miles across Oklahoma, but it was 2 miles wide.
And it was down for 40 minutes, is that right?
Yeah. They travel usually less than 35 miles an hour. And so it's going half of highway speed for most of an hour.
From what you're seeing and hearing, is this on the scale of Joplin? Is it worse? Is it like the 1990s?
Well, it sounds like it's worse. Right. It sounds like it's worse because of the width. So you get the air's moving across the Midwest. As it goes over the land, it drags on the surface and it will start to tumble. Then as an air mass comes up from the Gulf, a warm air mass, it will start to essentially tip the thing. And since everything's rushing to where the air is rising from the warmth, you're getting squeezed up by the cool air, It doesn't come in symmetrically, so it starts to spin and get this enormous storm. So the question is, if it's 4 times, or let's say 2.5 times as wide as a storm in 1999, does that have the square? Is that 10 times the energy? And is that the future? And then what are we going to do in the Midwest?
Let's take a quick break, Bill. Yeah. I want to talk to you more about, is this the future? Because many people are asking, after Hurricane Sandy here in New York and now this, what is going on with the weather? Is it getting more extreme? We'll come back after the break, and we'll also have more on the search for survivors tonight and the devastation on the ground in Moore, Oklahoma.
Turn here and get a little bit better.